Hello, firstly I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's joined us at Everest Virtual Conference 2021. I'm Dan.
And I'm Jamie.
And we're going to be taking a first-hand look at accessplanit's Training Industry Benchmark Report.
So the report we're going to cover today covers a wide range of topics across the training industry. It's going to include training delivery, sales and marketing, technology usage, measures of success, the impacts of COVID and the outlook of the industry. This is a whistle-stop tour of our biggest findings from this year's report. And best of all, you'll receive your own free copy at the back end of this session.
So without further ado, let's see what we learned this year.
Training delivery-wise, it won't surprise most to learn that blended learning, the buzzword of the last 5 years past, have resurfaced, with as many as 3/4 of training providers planning to have a blended learning strategy in place by the end of 2022. That's an increase of 35% from 2020.
With the shift towards blended learning, as you'd expect, the adoption of e-learning has followed a similar boom, with 59% of providers with an e-learning offering already in place. And this is expected to rise by another 11% by the end of 2022. While many providers were quick to get on board with video conferencing tools such as Zoom and GoToMeeting for their live delivery, the implementation of sophisticated e-learning solutions and content libraries are a slightly more complex project and rely on internal resource and technology in order to make a success of it. Due to this, we'd expect providers with e-learning offerings to continue to increase right through 2022.
For in-person training, so far, respondents believe that the appetite for classroom training is very much still alive. In our end-of-year report in 2020, a massive 97% of the respondents said they feel in-person training will still be in demand post-COVID, for reasons such as it being a bit more engaging, it's a bit more interactive, and it's more collaborative. It also requires a human element that's hard to replicate through a screen. As many as 72% of training providers plan to run an in-house training in 2022, with 43% planning to offer open courses to their delegates.
One other trend our report has helped to uncover is the switch from intensive 1 or 2 day short courses to longer length modular or sessional courses. This allows providers to upsell the customer and strengthens loyalty, while creating a learning pathway that is tailored to the individual.
You'll be happy to know I'll be keeping the COVID discussion short today. As we know, most of you are probably a bit fed up with hearing about it at this point. Thankfully, when we did assess the business impacts of COVID-19 in this report, just as many providers have experienced positive results over the past 20 months as have experienced negative. 1 in 10 even reported that business impact had been very positive.
Many who have transitioned to online delivery reported lower costs and therefore higher profitability. Other providers were engaged in training key workers, where training felt less disruption.
There are those who felt the impacts in a less positive way, however, unfortunately. With a loss of income due to lockdowns, there simply wasn't recouped by online learning. One respondent described last year's calendar of being decimated, but was positive in that they expected a healthy appetite for classroom sessions moving forwards.
Most will be aware of the fact that as the switch to online learning continues, our use of technology increases alongside. Whether that's training delivery tools such as virtual conferencing and e-learning platforms or internal communication platforms, training businesses are investing in tech to support their organisation and remain competitive.
Unsurprisingly, tools such as Zoom and Teams have seen a 500% increase in 2021, both used to help deliver live virtual training, internal and external meetings as well.
Outside of training delivery, technology is also used heavily across the training industry to lessen the administrative load, by getting everything in one place, automating processes and helping to reduce cost. As providers increasingly look to remain competitive, streamlining processes offers the chance to save time and frees up resource to put in other areas that add value to the business.
A really good example of this is the adoption of online booking tools. It allows providers' websites to update in real time, receive bookings 24/7 and automate the payment and communications around the e-commerce. 70% of providers are now taking some or most of their bookings online, up from 25% only 4 years ago. This is significant when we consider 48% of professionals claim processing course bookings and payments is their most time-consuming administrative task.
Other time-consuming admin tasks for training professionals includes creating course material, course and event scheduling, and course promotion. The use of training management software, which is designed to help manage and lessen these administrative processes, is now being used by over 50% of training providers. Surprisingly, 40% of training providers are still using spreadsheets to manage their training though. Now, let's talk sales and marketing. Last year, we found paid ads and search engine optimization to be the two fastest growing and relied on channels for providers to promote their courses, each up 40% on the figures from 2019. In 2021, however, changes haven't been quite so dramatic. Reputation and referrals continues to be the industry's preferred method of attracting both new and returning business for training providers, closely followed by social media and email campaigns. SEO and paid ads, which each experienced a leap in 2020, each interestingly took a dip in 2021. However, this is not exactly unexpected. Being two of the most costly and resource-intensive methods of course promotion, they show more volatility when providers find themselves with limited resource.
In the survey, we also learned that 75% of training professionals are on LinkedIn now, and it's also become our preferred source of industry knowledge and networking opportunities in the absence of these in-person events. We found Facebook and Twitter to be used around by half of the training professionals, with Instagram and YouTube slightly further down that list. A special mention must be made this year for TikTok though, which has stormed on the scene and a social channel we expect to feature more and more prominently in future reports.
So, what is it as a business that lets you know you're doing a good job? Across the years, we've tracked a number of success measures for training providers, and each time there's one that always comes out on top. Customer satisfaction was once again the favoured measured of success by training professionals, ahead of repeat business and course attendance.
Within customer feedback, our report has also tracked the use of paper happy sheets over the years and has found only 28% of training providers are using paper-based evaluation forms. That's down 41% over the last 5 years. The increase in virtual training delivery has of course sped this transition up, along with the adoption of online survey tools such as SurveyMonkey and the built-in LMS tools. The training industry has certainly not been without its challenges over the past 20 months. The concern that's on the mind of over 1/3 of our respondents relates to the alternative delivery methods threatening live in-person training. With more and more online courses becoming available across the globe, these being typically cheaper and more accessible offerings could spell problems for classroom-based providers trying to compete. 35% of the professionals also reported a lack of resource, meaning staff members were having to fill multiple seats and complete multiple tasks that fall outside of their job spec.
On a much more positive note, the exact thing that over 1/3 of providers saw as a challenge and a threat, 60% saw as an opportunity, hoping to capitalise on the increase in popularity of online learning heading into 2022. In fact, many of the opportunities all related to online learning, with professionals excited about having access to a wider variety of training techniques, as well as recognising digital innovation as a big opportunity for their training business.
We surveyed respondents on both the outlook for their own training business and the outlook for the training industry generally as a whole, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being little confidence and 10 anticipating a year filled with opportunities and profit.
Interestingly, both scores were within 0.03 of one another, 6.54 for business outlook and 6.51 for industry outlook. These were each almost a full point above 2019, where confidence figures averaged out around 5.88.
When asked for comment, training businesses certainly have grand plans and aspirations moving into 2022, which is quite refreshing to see. The phrases chosen by our respondents emanated with positivity, such as positive energy, forming partnerships, bouncing back, improving quality, upskilling teams, sustaining growth, going global, and launching new courses.
When asked for comment on industry outlook, the comments we received were less positive. There's a real concern within the training industry at present surrounding poor quality training and the existence of providers who are prioritising profit and quick wins over quality training courses, which calls for increased regulation. This has been picked up on previous editions of the report, but it's certainly more prevalent in responses this year. Others referenced the lack of quality applicants and skilled instructors when recruiting, and some highlighted the lack of funding available.
And I put it to you, Dan, what do you prefer, face-to-face training or like webinar type training?
I tend to prefer face-to-face. I do think there's a lot to be said for interaction with a trainer in person. I think it's something that's often quite difficult to replicate behind a screen. And I do think that often I get more from the session. But saying that, I've had more of an experience this year of on-demand learning where I can do it in bite-sized chunks. And I do find that is much easier to digest, and you do tend to retain knowledge quite a lot better. So it's quite balanced, but I think if I had to choose between the two, I'd go for an in-person session.
I'd say there's nothing quite like going on site and doing a session and being with people, even taking lunch together and discussing the session, little bits like that, rather than popping downstairs and putting the telly on for half an hour.
That's it. I mean, you do have breakout rooms and things in Zoom, which I know is trying to sort of replicate that, but I do think you need that sort of human-to-human interaction through group work, in person, and with the trainer to be able to get the most from your session.
Yeah, totally agree.
So a massive thank you for joining us for the first session of Everest 2021. Hopefully this session has given you a lot of useful insight, and don't forget to download the report where you'll gain even more. Hope to see you soon.